Hey guys, welcome back to the front line. It's your girl Samar, and this week's episode is brought to you by Who in the Hell Left the Back Gate Open? For real, this is like the longest. Can you guess who in the hell left the gate open? The older I got, is the more I understood that saying. You know, poor Lady Liberty. Look at her in the background. She got her emergency blanket. Somebody's trying to console her. You just can't. Because wild beasts have been let in. Okay? There's no consoling this woman right here. You know, she used to light the way. She used to hold the book. I mean, think about that statue in the harbor. Not saying that we're supposed to be making idols, but think about what they were showing you that she was doing. She had a torch. She was lighting the way. One hand she had a torch held up high. And in the other, she had a book. On top of her head was a crown, right? Like crown oil, right? And on that crown is 7 hills. Matter of fact, I'll show you guys. Count them. Y'all remember when I showed you that wing on the back of the dragon's back, right? There were 7 hills on the back of that dragon's wings, too. Now look at the top of her head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what you mofos came in here for, right, wild beast? For those 7 cities of gold that were under her jurisdiction. And now, because somebody left the back gate open, look what we got. It is out of control. Look at Lady Liberty as chaos is ensuing all around, thanks to the wild beasts that have been let in. You know, somebody today said, this is a failure to uphold an oath. I beg to differ. I think they're upholding an oath, just not the one that this country was supposed to be founded on them keeping, right? On their systems, right? I want to take you guys back in time, you know? To how important an oath was in the 1800s. Because all day today, as I watch the news of the No Kings protest, right? Sounds familiar, right? Yo, shout out to Huldah, my ancient ancestress, Huldah, the badger, the honey badger. Y'all know that's our mascot over here, man. We badger people daily over this joint, and we don't care. And this week, we badgering somebody high on their horse. That is supposed to, air quotes, supposed to be upholding a constitution, right? But they don't want to be president. See? That's the difference of what you're dealing with, guys. You are dealing with someone who told you they wanted to be king. In no uncertain terms. Okay? So today, they you see the pushback on somebody wanting to be king. But see, this wanting to be king goes back further than this one individual in this one moment of time. Goes way back. Man has been on a conquest of rulership for a very long time. Man will step on children's backs and women's backs and other men's backs to get in that position of power, as we're seeing today. I want to take y'all back in time with this mofo. Speaking of ancestors, you see how I'm giving shout out to my ancestor, Huldah, who I could only wish to live up to. You know, I could only hope that I'm doing a good job of living up to what Huldah was doing, boy. Huldah said, I ain't gonna call you no king. Tell that man. Well, guess what? Oh, Donnie boy, I'm not gonna call you king either. I'm not even gonna call you president. You remind me of the fruit hanging on the stinky palm tree. You're just a rotting man. You damn sure ain't my king, and you damn sure ain't my president. Because I don't participate in this bullshit called politics. But I sure am politically entertained right now. And I'm living in a political moment right now. I got a message for you. You don't run shit here. And my mama's coming back to put you in your place. And every day, your skin, the cells inside of it die. Every day as a result of her. Right? Because we read over here that she is in control of that sickness and that health. Every day while the wild beasts run amok and think that they're in control, they come closer to finding out that they're not. So just hang in there, Israel. We're really almost out of this. Believe me, guys. Look how close we are. I never thought I'd be here today, but I want us to talk about this oath. It's really important. You can find this on the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services page. History of the Oath of Allegiance. Let's get to it. Throughout the nation, I don't want to say our nation, let's just say throughout the nation's history, foreign-born men and women have come to the United States, taken the oath of allegiance to become naturalized citizens, and contributed greatly to their new communities and country. The oath of allegiance has led to American citizenship for more than 220 years. But you want to know what? This mofo ain't take this allegiance no 220 years ago at the start of this country. I'm going to show y'all. Let's keep going. Since the first naturalization laws in the 1790s, applicants for naturalization have taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States. 5 years later, the Naturalization Act of 1795. So this lets you know immigrants were coming in from 1790s. But we know they were coming in much earlier than that, thanks to people leaving the back door open. Because we actually know who left the back door open. It was Stephen. Let's keep going. 5 years later, it required an applicant to declare an intention, right, to become a U.S. citizen before filing a petition for naturalization. In the declaration of intention, the applicant would indicate his understanding that upon naturalization, he would take an oath of allegiance to the United States and renounce, which means give up, any allegiance to a foreign prince. You see that? a foreign prince. Now, this is going to be very important later because Donnie Boy's grandfather was still in allegiance to a prince when he gave his oath. So, you want to know why this mofo can't keep an oath to today? Because his grandpa couldn't keep an oath back then. And I'm going to prove this shit. Let's go. Y'all know I don't play no games over here. I'm going to prove everything that I'm stating right here as factual. Watch. State of sovereignty, right? Applicants born with a hereditary title also had to renounce their title or order of nobility. Prior to 1906, naturalization courts had little or no guidance on how to apply or administer the law. The law did not include an exact text for the oath. It stated only that an applicant shall declare an oath that he will support the Constitution of the United States and that he absolutely and entirely renounces and abjures all allegiance and fidelity, right, to either foreign prince. That's important. Remember that, foreign prince, right? Sorry, y'all, I'm highlighting something else. All right. Patent, state, sovereignty, and particularly by name to the prince. Okay, by name to the prince. Okay, potent state or sovereignty of which he was before a citizen or subject, which proceeding shall be recorded by the clerk of a court. Before 1906, and this is important because this is who we're talking about. Donnie's grandfather. All right? His grandfather is supposedly sworn in 1894, so this applies to him. All right, before 1906, there were as many as 5,000 courts with naturalization jurisdictions. Each court could develop its own procedures for administering the oath. Some courts simply documented that the applicant swore an oath. Other courts chose to write and print their own text for the oath, which the applicant would read at the final hearing. All right, because of a lack of uniformity, they made this clear, right? They made some standards later on, okay? But remember, this don't apply to Donnie Boy's grandpa, all right? Remember, it was a local court, supposedly, right? So in 1929, you get the official oath right here, okay? I want you to go ahead and familiarize yourself with that on your own time. I just came here for this, right? You can't be calling on Prince by name, okay? Okay, remember that. All right, remember that. Because I question this man's citizenship right here. At the very start, right? They're running around giving oaths. Now, let's get to it. Trump's grandfather pleaded to stay in Germany. And we got a copy of the letter. Oh, yes, we do. We don't play no games around here. The German grandfather of the U.S. President-elect Donnie Boy returned to Germany with his wife before their son was born, according to the Daily Bild. However, officials ordered him to leave Bavaria or face deportation. There's some inconsistencies as to when their first son is born. Now, that's the man in control's father right there that we're questioning where this mofo was born at. All right, because there's conflicting accounts. All right, and we know that their documentation was not up to standards then. Let's get to it, though, right? We're going to poke holes in we're going to live up to my ancestors' standards here. Huldah, all right? She would poke holes in this story. Let's get to it. Friedrich Trump faced a deportation order, fighting it for months in the early years of last century before losing. Now, I like how they put that into context. The early years of last century. Before losing a legal struggle, the mass circulation newspaper Bild reported on Monday, citing a historical document found in the ancestral town of Karlstad, southwest Germany. Right? Something wrong with the germ man, ain't it? Something seemed to be wrong here. The grandfather of, based on historic, what they've told us, these mofos have done in history, and based off of what we're seeing them do all over again. If y'all history is false, it's pretty strange that y'all are doing some of the same things all over again, or is that just the blueprint for the future? The grandfather of the future U.S. president left the city at the age of 16. We already covered that. Arrived in New York in 1885, right? Later moving further west during the gold rush era. There he made his money running taverns and brothels. I question that shit too, okay? Because he goes back to Karlstad. Watch what it's going to tell you right here. He returns to Karlstad as a wealthy man in 1901 and met his future wife, Elizabeth Christ. The two married and moved to New York in 1902, but returned to Karlstad 2 years later, with the Elizabeth Christ complaining of extreme homesickness. All right, we're gonna get back to this bullshit that he went over there for the gold, where'd it go? For the gold era, the Klondike Gold, because I poked holes in that too. If you traveling back and forth between 1901 and 1902, you can't be in the Klondike Gold Rush. And we're going to cover that next too. According to Monday's report, the authorities soon discovered he had never performed the mandatory military service performance before leaving Germany. Another problem, according to local historian, was that Trump never officially, okay, this is important, unregistered from his hometown. So, do you remember the little bit we just read a little while ago that you cannot be sovereign to another nation or belonging to that other nation? Sounds like we got a problem right here. How you giving oaths when you never unregistered from your mother country? Says Germany got a problem with that. It's going to come up later on. He's not just deported based on his failure to not serve in the military. He's also deported based on his failure to unregister from the country. The German-born businessman was banned from reclaiming his citizenship in 1905. Listen to this. Did we not just read Calling on Princes by Name? Watch this. Letter to the Prince. Trump was labeled a draft dodger, and officials ordered him to leave the Kingdom of Bavaria. Does this not sound like history repeating itself all over again? Are these mofos going to be loyal to any nation? Huh? Are you going to fight for any nation, sir? Donnie, please tell me. Please tell me your whole family is just a bunch of losers who don't fight for shit or stand for nothing. I heard that if you don't stand for nothing, you fall for anything. You mofos don't stand for shit. Says here your grandfather dodged it there and your ass dodged it here. Okay? I bet you if we keep digging, your dad probably dodged at the World War II. I haven't dug on that. I should. But it's okay. We could see it at least skip the generation to your ass. Okay? You know who was in Nam? My dad. Not you. Check this out. Labeled a draft dodger, officials ordered him to leave the Kingdom of Bavaria, which at the time included Karlstad. The town is currently part of Rhineland-Palatinate state. The American citizen and pensioner. That's important, that pensioner word, right? Because that came up as an official word within the deportation decree for this man, okay? You don't belong to no nation because you done failed to unregister there, lied to the nation you came to over here. I can't even find the record of the court where you supposedly pledged. We still out here looking for that. Don't worry. I'm on the job, guys. I'm trying to get that public record, believe me. Or copy of it, find it, anything. Okay? To prove that this mofo was sworn in like he gonna say later on. I can't even find a record of it nowhere online. Okay? So there's no proof that this man that he even did this. This is just what he would have had to say in order to get a passport. So he had a passport. So we know for a fact he declared this to get a passport. We don't know for a fact that he legally naturalized. And even if he legally naturalized in a court somewhere, he would have lied, because he writes a letter to his prince right here and fails to unregister from the German nation. So, safe to say, lying is in your motherfucking blood. And so the fuck is this shit right here. Donnie, while you out here talking about everybody's fucking nation and who's no good coming from here and who's no good coming from there, guess who was no good coming from here? Yo ass. And I'm highlighting it in honor of my ancestress holder. You don't scare me. People need to know this about your ass. You ain't no goddamn leader. You're a fucking loser. Wrong motherfucking word. I got an L word that ends with a different R. And it ain't fucking leader, it's loser. And this shit runs in your fucking blood. Now, let's get down to it. The American citizen and pensioner, right? This is how they're going to address him. They don't know no better that in America, you can't be calling other people your prince and under nationality there, because of course you failed to unregister there, so you belong to Germany. Wild man. It says the pensioner, Friedrich Trump. I love that word was in there, and I hone in on that word later on for reason. All right, what pension? Friedrich Trump, currently residing in Karlstadt, is hereby informed that he is to depart the state of Bavaria or face deportation. Authorities said in a document dated in February 1905. They told your ass to get out. Okay? Historian Roland Paul also found a letter that Friedrich Trump sent to the Bavarian Prince Regent Leopold a few months later, imploring the well-loved, noble, wise, and just prince to heed his most modest plea and allow him to stay in Germany. The court denied the request. The move forced the Trumps to leave Germany for good in July 1905 and return to New York. Elizabeth Trump was pregnant at the time. 3 months after their return to the U.S., she had Fred Trump, who grew up to become the magnet of bullshit. They're going to sit up here and praise this mofo for making projects. Okay? Paid for by my people in New York City. Okay? Let's keep going here. I want to get back to this bullshit that they tried to... I'm calling cap. Okay? That he made his money on the Klondike Gold Rush. No, it was the brothels and the taverns that they said it was. Because look at when the gold rush took place. Cries of gold, gold, gold sent over 100,000 optimistic stampeders rushing to Dawson County, the Klondike gold fields in 1897 and 1898. They believed riches were waiting for those who could reach the remote Canadian region. All right, this was outside in Canada, but when they got here to the United States, we weren't finding it in Cali until when he gets back. So I tend to think that this is what led him back home. Okay, while all of these fantastic tales of him getting money during the gold rush and blah, 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 even though we see his ass, they said he went back in 1901, didn't they? Right? They said he went back and married somebody there. Isn't that convenient? Look at this. Do you guys know all of this hooting and hollering, right, about shutting down the Social Security system here, that is a Ponzi scheme? Guess where it originates from? Well, you'll never believe. The German. The germ man. Okay? Germany became the first nation in the world to adopt an old age social insurance program in 1889, designed by Germany Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. The idea was first put forward at Bismarck's behest in 1881. It says that the Emperor William I, in a groundbreaking letter to the German parliament, wrote, "Those who are disabled from work by age and invalid, we got it, have a well-grounded claim to care from the state." Right? Don't they want to end this now? Look who started it, right? But you had to either have, look at the key points, right? Because it works just how it works here, right? You got to work to pay into the system, right? It's only two ways you're going to get this pension. You either work and pay into the system, or you don't work, right? And you're disabled, right? Right? Okay, this is how the system started. It was to promote the well-being of workers in order to keep the German economy operating at maximum efficiency, to stave off calls for more radical socialist alternatives. Despite his impeccable right-wing credentials, Bismarck would be called a socialist for introducing these programs, as would Roosevelt 70 years later, right? In his own speech, Bismarck would call it socialism, or whatever you like. It's the same to me, he says. All right, the German system provided contributory retirement benefits and disability benefits as well. What pension was this mofo collected? Remember, when they deport him, they call him the pensioner. I'm just saying. Now, there's two pensions going down in the nation, right? It could have been the military pension, right? And he could have been collecting that unlawfully, right? And that could have been the pension that he was collecting that they're referencing, because they do mention in the deportation decree his failure to serve his country, and that he specifically moved to avoid service, and his failure to withdraw from registration. So, was he collecting the military pension? It could have been the military pension. It could have been this Social Security pension. It's just mighty odd that he took his ass back around the time this pension gets kicked off, right here, the Social Security one. Okay? Okay? All this fraud and abuse going on. Listen, I'm not here to say that anybody's perfect. Okay? But when you bag up a whole group of people and declare them all wrong, you got a problem. I can't do that with their race. You understand what I'm saying? And they shouldn't be able to do it with mine, right? These so-called races of man that they've created, right? But this is what they'll do. They will demonize my people and say that they are the ones that should civilize everybody. And look at what we're seeing here. A history from this man at the lead that's questionable. His family line is very questionable. The characteristics, they don't speak volumes towards, hey, this is who I want to be my leader of the whole country. You know what I'm saying? I'm not running to be leader of the whole country. Neither is the average Joe listening to me. But we're talking about the person in control of our families here, and our land, and our resources, and what would be left for the future, man. Someone who cannot value the idea that you need to tear down a dam and reintroduce salmon. Yes, you do. The land needs that. You wouldn't know nothing about what this land needs. Germ man. One persistent myth about the German program is that it adopted the age 65 as the standard retirement age because it was Bismarck's age. The myth is important because Germany was one of the models America looked to in designing its own Social Security plan. And the myth is that America adopted age 65 as the age for retirement benefits because this was the age adopted by Germany when they created their program. In fact, Germany initially set age 70 as the retirement age, and Bismarck himself was 74 at the time. It was not until 27 years later, in 1916, that the age was lowered to 65. By that time, Bismarck had been dead for 18 years. Our system was developed after theirs. Theirs was the first. We simply hijacked it. I believe we read this one already, the naturalization process, and how this would have affected your boy. I want to get over to, let's talk about how Germany, not specifically Bavaria, establishes the world's first national disability and old age insurance program, like we just read, right? Let me see. What's on this one? Okay. It's important for us to talk about this pension, right? Because I told you, it could have been one of two, right? The law granted a modest pension to those who became disabled due to occupational invalidity or who reached the age of 70, right? The funding was from the pension fund, right? Mandatory for industrial and other workers with annual incomes below 2,000 Reichmarks. The fund was managed through a regional insurance institution. After the unification of Germany in 1871, Bavaria was a semi-autonomous state within the German Empire. Federal laws passed by the Reichstag, such as the 1889 Pension Act, applied nationwide. See, this is why I think this mofo went back, okay? He said to go back to the Americas would have given him financial hardship in his pleading letter to his prince. So why would you be facing hardship? You made all this money in America. What hardship? And how was this man staying in Germany going to allow him not to face hardship? Come on, use your brain. They're calling him the pensioner. He's collecting something. Okay? I just can't put my finger on which one it is. Okay? You can use your brain. It's one of the two of these. The Bavarian pension schemes, while subject to the national laws, Bavaria did establish its own specific pension scheme later on. For instance, the Bavarian pension scheme for physicians, dentists, and veterinarians was founded in 1929. That was way after that. In 1889, the national law was the operative framework, which was the one for retirees and disabled people. So let's go to it. The Bavarian state pension was not created in a single act, but evolved from Germany's first national system, which was established in 1889. Bavaria had its own professional pension, but like I said, that doesn't come later until 1929. Okay, so it could not be one of these later ones because he's gone back to the States by then. So it has to be the first state pension that he's collecting from, which would be the equivalent of Social Security. Okay, they're going to talk about the oaths again. Um, let me, I want to get a clear picture of this, so hold on. Let me go to the photo record. So I want to get to the full question that we posed to, or statement that I posed to Crystal, right? As to what we can glean from the research that we just conducted, right? As a rock solid, okay? Now check this out. So our only rock solid conclusion is he lied. If he was naturalized on October 27th, this is Friedrich's supposed naturalization date that he gave on his passport application, right? October 27th, 1894, because he was very evidently a Bavarian German subject, as per the primary source record of his pleading to his prince, Luitpold of Bavaria, admitting his Bavarian identity and desire to stay in Bavaria. However, we are awaiting the public record of thus naturalization. No such record has been made public. If not naturalized on October 27th, he would have lied on his passport application as well. So, listen to what Crystal says. Exactly. That's a very precise and accurate summary of the legal and historical situation. Let's frame it clearly. The primary source evidence. The letter to Prince Luitpold. Friedrich Trump explicitly identifies as a Bavarian subject, requests to remain in Bavaria, and pleads based on his status as a German subject. You know where you're not going to find no letters or no wild shit like this at? In my line, people begging to stay in other countries. Now, we've been here for a long time. Matter of fact, y'all begging us to leave, and we ain't going nowhere. You're going to wind up leaving here. All right, Donnie? Listen, maybe your country wants you back. Friedrich Trump explicitly identifies as a Bavarian subject, requests to remain in Bavaria, and pleads, all right, based on his status as a German subject. This confirms beyond doubt that as of 1905, he was still considered German by German authorities. All right, you want to be mad at me or the primary source in your grandfather's handwriting, begging to not be sent to the hardships that would await him in the Americas, because he is a pensioner there. Let's keep going. Naturalized claim, October 27th. If he truly naturalized on this date, he would have sworn allegiance to the United States. This conflicts directly with his 1905 letter pleading to remain a Bavarian subject. Therefore, either 1, the naturalization record does not exist, meaning the October 27th, 1894 date is likely false or misreported. Crystal even know you be lying. Okay? Or 2, he did naturalize, but Germany did not recognize it, which was extremely unlikely given the strict rules of the time. If the record is real, it is either legally invalid or he misrepresented his status in one or both documents, either his naturalization papers or his letter to the prince. I tend to think he was lying in the naturalization documents and not the letter to the prince, because he never failed to unregister when he left Germany. So factually, you are a German subject. So his letter to the prince was no lie. He was talking to his prince. Let's keep going. Passport application. Regardless of naturalization, if he was not legally a U.S. citizen, any claim to citizenship on a U.S. passport would constitute misrepresentation or falsehood, lies. That's AKA for lies. Let's get on down here. Verification at the time was limited, right? We didn't have these fancy computer systems that we got now that you let people run amok through the other day, right? Verification at the time was limited. So it was feasible to claim citizenship even if he wasn't legally one. So a rock solid conclusion. Let's get to the rock solid conclusion that we here on the front line, the honey batchers, have came down to. Fact. Friedrich Trump was a Bavarian subject as of 1905. Okay? 1905. You was a Bavarian subject. Fact. There is no publicly available naturalization record for October 27th, 1894. Where's the paperwork, Donnie? Where's your grandpa paperwork? Inference. You was all up Obama ass about his birth certificates. Well, looky here. You know how they say when somebody when they try to get in an argument with you to throw the focus off of their ass, or if they cheating, they'll try to accuse you of cheating. Donnie, you out here cheating and trying to accuse the other person? Oh boy. If the naturalization date is cited anywhere, it is either erroneous, misrepresented, or fraudulent. Fact, if he obtained a U.S. passport claiming citizenship without legal naturalization, that would be a false claim. Another lie. We done poked holes all in your shit. This shit is like Swiss cheese. In short, the smoking gun is that he could not have been a legally recognized U.S. citizen prior to 1905. Yet any official document claiming such would require misrepresentation, either intentionally, more than likely, right? He's going to intentionally make sure them documents pop up, or through assumed legitimacy. Okay, so lies upon lies upon lies is what we got when it comes to you, my man. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we could read what was going on in that picture really clear, because I wanted y'all to keep up. All right. I bring up the crystal that the oath to the Americas explicitly states you could not be under the sovereignty of another nation. Friedrich Trump's letter to the Bavarian prince is evidence of his direct subjugation to the Bavarian kingdoms. Do y'all get that? The publication of this letter right here shows us this mofo is a subject of the Bavarian kingdom. Yes, it does. Remember, it said calling upon by name as prince. See, had he just said that man over there, and, but begging to stay there and say, the residency was residing in Karlstad. They said all of this. Okay? It didn't say he was visiting, but, collecting a pension. I would imagine you would have to be, the letter alone is proof, y'all, of his living abroad in Karlstad. Told us that he was residing in Karlstad based off of the deportation decree on its own, guys. Okay? And you can't swear an oath while you still under oath with someone else. Okay, so a prime example of that. Once you swear an oath to the military, you can't go behind the U.S. military and swear an oath to another military. It don't work like that. You have to be loyal to someone. And in his case, he would have been loyal to his mother country. That's That's why this oath was necessary. And all we saw today was lies every which way, right? I'm a citizen. I'm not a citizen. I need the pension over here. Come on, man. I need to stay over here because if I don't, I'm going to face financial hardship. If you send me back to those states, nobody begged him to come here. He got on a boat and he came here of his own accord. Nobody begged this man to come here. All you see is lies, man. And this letter right here shows you who this germ man belongs to. And how he ain't no citizen here. He ain't been here no centuries, little Smokey. Mr. JD. This mofo just got here. Just like you and your little hillbilly Appalachia people. You all just got here. There were people on these lands before you who took care of these lands, who were supposed to steward over these lands. You've come in based on a lie that you are this great American, that you hail from these immigrants that contributed greatly to this country. And you know what? Looks like you're kicking out immigrants who are contributing greatly to the country. Look at that man they threw down the other day with those 3 sergeant sons. They contributed, I would say. You ain't contributed shit. When I look around, I want to see people like that, not you. People who know what it's like to go to bed hungry. Know what it's like to work 6 days a week. I don't want to see people like you. I want to see people who love the land. This land. That they have a birthright to. Because you don't, Donnie. Last but not least, you are the joke that keeps on giving. So we're going to come back from the past and go back to the future on this one, guys. If you sat down to watch Back to the Future 2, you may have noticed some eerie similarities between the alternate 1985 universe version of Biff Tannen and a certain Republican presidential candidate with a penchant for self-promoting, right? They were right-winged over there, and the Germans, right? Building giant hotels and casinos. And it turns out that's no accident. The writer of the flick has not just confirmed that Tannen is, in fact, based on Donnie Boy. In an interview with the Daily Beast, the series screenwriter was asked about some of the parallels of modern day and the 1985 of Biff. Gale revealed that not only did he and his fellow filmmaker agree with those parallels, but that Donnie was actually inspiring them at the time they were working on the flick in the 80s. A century later, this movie's based off of this loser. It didn't take him long. I showed you guys, it didn't take long for this takeover to happen. Look how long it took for us to see Anna Koana's gourd snatched up and in the hands of a shaman who left the back door open. 30 years. He gives them land deeds. They come back with their lying, stealing, non-honorable, don't want to fight for their country, draft dodging ways. Right? Somebody said they only sent their criminals over here. This is what we got here. Look familiar? They've been calling him Donnie Corleone. It's no wonder. Biff is up to his old tricks again. And it only took a century for this deplorability to wind up a celebrity here. Fast forward a few more years later, what is it, 4 centuries later? And we got Donnie as a wannabe king. Well, God damn it, I told you. I ain't calling you no king, sir. Not at all. Shout out to Hulda. You're going to get put in your place, sir, real soon. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. I hope I made my contribution to this No King's Day in honor of my ancestress, Hulda. That's what we stand for on this TV right here, this honey badger. Shout out to you for being here. Much love. Shout out to all of the wise women on the council. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Yolanda. Shout out to Unifier. Shout out to Chanel, who made a contribution to the farm today. Much love to all of my big sisters. I love you guys. And to all the mother sons, Israel, Michael, thank you guys for being here. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.